officially 8:30. Welcome everybody to the Board Curriculum Committee meeting. We would like to welcome the audience and thank you for attending. Viewers may watch the Board of Education meetings and board committee meetings, usually live on tcaps.net/board. Today we're old school recording and then we'll post after the meeting. So the recorded meeting will be viewed at the same address. So we'll move right into public comment. No public comment today. We have two visitors with us today, but no public comment. So we'll keep on moving. So we'll go right into procedural items. We are the draft meeting minutes portion of the agenda. Are there any changes to those meeting minutes?
None.
Okay, hearing no changes, the minutes will remain as posted. Next item on the agenda is the 2023 TCAPS District, 2023-24 TCAPS District course catalogs, and at this time, there are no updates, so we'll move right along into the social studies curriculum adoptions. So we'll defer to Christian Jones-Morgan.
So we actually have a number of social studies curriculum adoptions that I wanted to talk to you about today. The first are the adoptions that are taking place in our AP classrooms for social studies. So we have AP World History and AP Government and Politics. Both of those adoptions are going to need to be moved forward to Board Finance because they hit the threshold of requiring approval based on the amount that will be spent. But I also wanted to make you aware that we are also looking at adoptions for AP United States History, AP Psychology, and AP European History. Really what these are extensions. These are all classes where our AP teachers went through a review process of looking at student performance data, which I think we're all aware in terms of our AP performance data, it's excellent. So they looked at that. They also did a survey on their satisfaction with the product itself and with its usability. And so they all really determined that what they have is working and working well, and they really were simply interested in continuing to extend the contracts with each of the vendors that they participate with. So you'll see there that obviously we have 5 classes listed. Again, 2 of those classes meet the threshold based on the spending amount to be brought forward to Board Finance. And that's the process we used. The second social studies adoption involves elementary. It should be noted that that was more of a full 2-year process. At the elementary level, we have not purchased a curriculum since 2012. So we've been using an open book resource for social studies, and our committee, along with the social studies teachers across the district, engaged in a 2-year process. Year 1 really involved selection of material, vetting, reviewing of standards. We narrowed down our scope to 3 different products and then piloted those throughout this school year and really landed on, at the K2 level, using a Scholastic News resource, and at the 3-5 level, using a resource called Studies Weekly. It should also be noted, related to social studies, that our language arts curriculum that we'll be talking about in the near future will have social studies and some science components embedded in some of the curricular resources and supports that are actually through language arts. So really these adoptions represent curriculum that are specific to the social studies content areas and are meant to kind of shore up the social studies learning across K-5. I should note that both of those purchases will also need to be brought forward to Board Finance because they cross that threshold. Any questions on the social studies?
So just to clarify, so we have been using K through 2 Scholastic News.
No, these are actually new, this is a new purchase.
We've not had anything in the past.
Okay.
In 11 years.
We've been
So
using an
it's
open
open
book.
source.
Yep, an open source.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is proposing to add, to finance to add to,
Yes.
okay, got it.
To note that there were lots of schools that was Scholastic News, but their PTOs funded that.
That's where I was
Yes,
like.
and so we really recognize that if it's a good resource for some resource for all kids,
Yeah.
and so we really wanted to take that variable out of the equation, and use Scholastic News as a primary resource for all of our students, K-2.
Got
What exactly does open book mean?
Free.
It's free.
Basically free resource.
It's created and it's open to the public, you know, whoever creates it doesn't, you know, charge a fee for it. It's created for the good of the whole,
Yeah,
Okay.
and generally electronic resource.
yeah.
Kinda like
They don't
public
necessarily
domain.
update or vet it either,
Yeah.
ongoing.
So you can, you'll have a scope and sequence of a curriculum, but you have to make all the copies, all the workbooks, you have to like manually put it together. And that's the resource we had been using.
Thank you.
I thought it was kind of dull. And you said this hadn't been reviewed since 2012?
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. And
Did you have a question?
Well, I'll be very interested in seeing how it comes together, because I think social studies is a very important area. And, you know, it's not like math and ELA, so I think it's a little bit harder to kind of get into it. I would like to see part of it.
Mhm. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we can do that.
And are we weaving in other resources along with it? Or are you pretty much going, this is mainstream and we're not gonna move very much to either side?
No, I would say that in regards to social studies standards, we believe after the 2-year process that these products help hit those standards, the Michigan State standards.
Seen those standards, and I thought, I wasn't impressed with them. And I went to the public comments, and it's my understanding that they were having a hard time with the process even in the state.
That's true.
Finalizing those
Yes.
standards, because they were not.
Universally accepted.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I was there at the time. I was State Department.
Okay,
So,
is that
yeah,
why you got white
a lot. Yeah, four daughters.
paper? I'm
But yeah, and you know, there's talk of at some point going back to that and having a conversation again. But as I've told many, and I've told you even before as well, that's what we're bound by, the state standards, and unless anybody's willing to run for the legislature, I haven't figured out how to change that yet. So
Well, yeah, and the other thing, I think that's where, you know, if you can reach out and add to it, one of the problems I had with those standards was they really, they were system-oriented more than people-oriented. And I think especially in young kids, it's almost like they need mentors, they need people to get excited about. Our heroes shouldn't be limited to, you know, comic book characters. And so I really.
Was that me?
That
No.
was something
Was that this?
missing. And I know Holly had some concerns as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
we-
so we're looking at all those. We are doing
Yes.
some audits, but that's mostly a little bit older kids than
Middle
the
school.
The K
That
one.
would be a little
Yeah.
bit.
But, you know, we
Just-
always do look at the standards and see if there is a supplement. And, you know, it doesn't mean that we still don't bring guest speakers and folks in and, you know, like with things we're doing even with like the lunch buddies, we have, you know, Marine Corps, you know, members and, you know, in fact, we were just talking yesterday about state police coming in and, you know, and trying to get them in to meet with kids and some of that. So I think there are some of those things that you're trying to get at of of extra, components and resources that maybe aren't hit as well as we would like, and those elements that we still will continue to look at and find ways to bring supplemental.
Well, and just
Those
as
are
a,
typically outlined too in the scope and sequence. So even though those are the resources, when the teachers get to developing their scope and sequence and what those look like, those usually are outlined within there, like
Yeah.
what those additional opportunities look like.
yeah, and just from my own personal experience, when my kids were in school and had the Scholastic magazine, they may look at the state standards, introduce the social studies pieces, but then the teachers expanded on that a lot. And I know opened, my kids' eyes to a lot of different things. So not so. So I think, our teachers are using the resources and, using those state standards, but I think they're also.
And have a leeway.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this will help.
Exactly.
We've always said that the state standards are minimal expectations.
If that.
Right, but that's minimum. It doesn't mean it's maximum or all encompassing.
Right. Nor do they necessarily engage the kids.
No, not always.
You know?
So
The-
that's why we review stuff.
Yeah, the other thing I would say is that when we're talking about the teaching of social studies, that social studies principles and standards are interwoven into many, many different areas. So one of the things that this committee has done has gone through and looked at when we're teaching our second step lessons, which are the social and emotional learning lessons, where are there social studies standards embedded in that work? As we start to talk more about our language arts adoption process, you will see that there is tremendous overlap between social studies and science embedded in teaching language arts. So I think that this is intended to say, we know that these two products help us meet those minimum standards, but in no way does Scholastic News encompass everything that there is to know about being a responsible citizen, understanding democracy at its fullest, understanding the impact of your relationships with others. Right? It's a resource, it's a tool, but it's one that will be embedded into many different approaches when we're talking about curriculum with kids.
And we'll make sure as soon as we get back up and everything, that we get an opportunity for you to take a look at the resources.
Thank you. And hopefully there'll be a little bit of financial information in there as well.
Yeah, we'll have that with the
Reading,
finance.
the
Yep.
whole 9
Yep.
yards.
Okay, so we'll move on to the field trip request. So we'll defer to Kristen Perkowski.
So these are all Central High School. They're all stateside, and they're ones that we've been to previously. So robotics, academic world quest, and quiz bowl. And these are all this coming spring.
Perfect. So we'll move these on to our consent calendar for the full board meeting. Okay, any questions regarding those field trips?
Just one quick one. There was a curriculum meeting or two ago, discussion about these kind of field trips and possibly taking portable beds. Where are we with that?
Still working through that, but, we had conversation with the principals, and it's something that, we would have in place here for next year. We've got to get our policy and stuff in place, really, from that standpoint, but I know we put something together. You want to talk a little bit about?
Just, they've shared some logistical challenges, now that they can't be overcome, but we just brought forward some suggestions and feedback after they thought through a few other details that maybe we hadn't thought through, that we'll need to make sure that we highlight in the administrative guidelines and policy.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And can I ask, the other school, one school had the band trip that they were bringing to New York, are both high schools?
Was that the last month?
That was the last meeting, or 2 meetings ago, I think is when we talked
We'll
about
check.
that.
One-
Central High
That was
Yes.
Central High School.
I think that was just central.
Yeah, just Central's.
Correct.
We haven't heard from
Yep.
West
And
yet.
they
I don't-
may
They're going to
also
Italy.
be-
I think,
Yeah.
I think they're doing a different trip. We'll check. We can let you know.
At one time, they were both going to Italy,
Yes.
but now it looks like Central's going to New York,
Yes.
West's going to Italy.
Yeah.
Because the dates were so close together, I think.
the League of Independent Schools meeting that was right next door.
Okay, so moving on to informational items. So first item is Big Brothers Big Sisters of Northwest Michigan. We have a presentation, and we'll defer to Robin Smiley. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Oh my gosh. I'm not very good with the microphone. Is it on?
It is.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I talk really loud, so I have a really hard time talking low into a microphone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here to give you an update on Big Brothers Big Sisters and our school-based program. Thank you so much for allowing us into the schools. It has been remarkable for us to be able to be in all 11 elementary schools, and we really appreciate the opportunity to provide mentorship for our students. We know that we can't solve the problem, but we also know that we can be a little bit of the solution, and we're really happy to be able to provide that. On a personal note, I'm happy to be here because both of my children graduated from Traverse City Area Public Schools, and they both had amazing mentors while they were in school, and they turned out to be good humans because of that. Florrie Humphreys and Pat Brumbaugh took in my quirky boy and made him a percussionist. Let's see. Oh my goodness. I am so sorry. I just totally lost my train of thought. Anyway, he's still quirky, but he's an architect, so that's a good thing. And my daughter Kendall is a teacher here in Traverse City. She teaches junior kindergarten at Traverse Heights. So she's giving back to this school district as well, and I can't thank you enough for that. Kendall was lucky enough to have Biz Ruskowski and also Jess Houghton as her mentors when she was on the swim and dive team. So we have really had a wonderful experience, and I love the fact that I'm able to give back in my later working years, if you will. I brought some friends with me today that I'd like to share with you, and then I'll talk a little bit about our numbers for Big Brothers Big Sisters. So all these people have media releases on file, so just so you know, I'm not sharing anything that I shouldn't be. These hang in my office. This match was started, this is Willow and Erica Olvey from Central Grade School. The only thing Willow wanted to do was learn how to read. It was really holding her back. And Erica Olvey, who's a reading interventionist, stepped up and said, I'll be her big sister. So they're in their third year together and having a great time at Central Grade School.
Aw.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. You might recognize this gal. This is Amara Van Wagner and her little Lorraine. They were together for 2 years, and last year they both graduated. Amara moved on, and Lorraine moved on to middle school, and now she has a community-based big, not a high school big anymore. The nice thing about this is that Amara ignited the love of robotics in Lorraine, and Lorraine is now doing robotics and thinks about her future and thinks about the things that she's going to do after high school. So it was really impactful. Amara was an excellent big, and she took really good care of Lorraine.
School.
Lorraine hated
You
school.
feel good, Dad.
Yeah, you should feel good. You should. I tell you, she's going to change the world. I mean, that girl, I went to the robotics competition at Central High School last year to see her. Wow, I couldn't even talk to her. That girl was on fire. She is amazing.
Oh, yeah, and sometimes with their mom as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
Other daughters. I can relate.
Take the dog for a walk, exactly.
This is a really special match. This is Alex and Octavio. The great thing about this is that Alex is also a little brother. So he has been a little brother for about 6 years, and he decided that he wanted to give back. So he and his brother Kyle were both big brothers, and his brother Kyle graduated, and he's at Northwood Institute right now studying business, which is wonderful that he's going to college. And so Alex and Octavio made a great team. Alex is about 6'3", and Octavio is about this big. And Octavio has some challenges. He's in speech therapy, very hard to understand, very shy, and he has blossomed having a big brother. And my last one, this is Kinsey and Chloe. Chloe's an only child. She's a great kid, but has a really hard time making friends as an only child. So she wanted a big sister who is a teenager because she's really interested in teenagers. So this is their third year together. Kinsey started when she was a freshman in high school at Central, and they'll finish out next year 4 years together. So those are the ones that I wanted to show you because I have them in my office. In the 21-22 school year, we were able to serve, when we got into the schools in November, we were able to serve 26 kids in the TCAPS school district in the school-based program. In 22-23, we served 50, and this year, the 23-24 school year, we have 69 school-based matches. We also, in Traverse City Area Public Schools, have 95 children who are involved in a community-based match. So they don't meet at school. They meet after school and on the weekends, about 4 to 6 hours a month, and they get out into the community. In 2023, we concentrated on our financials, and really, our CEO, Cecilia Chesney, was tasked with raising a tremendous amount of money by our board, and she succeeded, and that was our goal for 2023. For 2024, we're going through strategic planning right now, so we know that we are going to be at about capacity by the end of this year. In 2024, right now, we're serving 326 kids through Big Brothers Big Sisters, and our goal is 450 by the end of the year, and it looks like we're going to make it. I have 5 matches that I'll be making next week. I'm supposed to do them this week, but it looks like we're going to be delayed a little bit into next week. So our goal is 450 for our year end, and we don't yet know what our goal will be for 2025. We know we're going to have to hire staff, and we know once we get through the strategic planning, we'll be able to put a goal in place to be able to reach. So we feel like we're thriving. We're really coming back from COVID and being in the schools and really enjoying our time. For me, I can't think of any other place that I'd rather be. I know as administrators and board members, I know it's stressful. It can be stressful for you, for our teachers, for everybody who works in the schools. But for me to come in, there's no place I'd rather be than with those little kids. And I get to serve two sets of kids. I serve little kids in the elementary schools, and I also work with teenagers. So it's the ability to mentor both ages, which is really wonderful. So at Big Brothers Big Sisters, we collect data in 3 ways. The first way is through a Big Brothers Big Sisters youth survey. So all of our mentoring specialists meet with each one of our littles, and they ask them a series of questions about whether or not they like their big, how safe they feel at home, how they're doing in school, if they're picking on somebody, if they're getting picked on, do they like school, do they like their family, do they like their big. Then we use a teacher observation. We send out a survey at the end of the year that has 4 questions for the teachers, and we give them the ability to share comments about the kids. And teachers report for last year, for the 22-23 school year, that 70% of the littles in their classroom have improved relationships at school. 88% of the littles in their classrooms have improved self-confidence. 84% of littles in their classroom have improved emotional well-being and emotional resilience. And then they have a few comments that I'd like to read to you. I mean, I have 50 of them, but I'm just going to read a few. In 2021, we reached out to 51 kids. Last year, we reached out to 151 with Heidi's help. So it's been really fantastic. The little social skills improved with the weekly visits of her big. Her self-confidence improved. She definitely benefited from the big's experience. Having this extra support for this little has been very helpful. She's been going through quite a bit of turmoil at home, and having her big as a constant in her life has been immensely helpful. Thank you. The big brother was amazing. He developed a great relationship with my student. In fact, all of the students looked up to him. He was a hero at recess. This is Kyler Brunin. He's a big old boy over at West Senior High School. He's going to Michigan State, I think, right? Mm-hmm. He is a hero. Those kids love him. He is a giant on the playground. And the little is much more confident, cooperative, and has better communication still since the beginning of the 2022-2023 school year. So those are just a few comments that we get from the teachers. When we talk about data, we get hard data from the district, and it comes to us anonymously through Heidi and her efforts. Thank you very much. And for last year, for behavioral referrals, we asked for 3 things: behavioral referrals, attendance, and grades. So our behavioral referrals from 2021 to 2022 to 2023 dropped to 0.74. So in 2022 and 2021 and 2022, it was 3.88 per student, and in 2023 it was 0.74. So that's good for us. And absences dropped from a high in 2021-22 of 16.63 to 3.54. We know that there are other factors that can be involved in this as well, but we also know that kids come to school because they want to see their big sister or their big brother. And then finally, our grades dropped slightly from an average of 2.91 per student to 2.83, and of course that doesn't include elementary kids, it's just middle school and high school students. I'm the school liaison, and so I work with the district to make the program run, but I'm also a mentoring specialist, and I have 25 matches of my own at Eastern Elementary. And I love it. I mean, I can't think of any place I'd rather be than be in the schools. Can I tell you a couple stories? Do we have time for that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So my very first match was 2 years ago. He was a kindergartner, and we normally don't take kids under the age of 6, but he was 5. And his mom reached out to us, and his dad had died from suicide. And she was really worried about her little guy and having some male influence in his life. And she told us, he's got his aunts and uncles, he's got neighbors, he's got his dad's friends, but I'd like to add another layer. I'd like to have him to have a high school big. And so we made the exception, and we got him a big when he was 5 in kindergarten. And it was a high school student from West Senior High. So they met for the year, and at the end of the year, I called his mom to check in, and I said, well, what do you think? And she said, of all of the people that said they would show up for my son, the only one that did was his high school bag. The only one that was there every single week for him was Jonah. Yeah, so they met again for another year, and Jonah graduated. And he had the choice between the Air Force Academy and the Naval Academy. So he went off to school, and we got Jonah another big. And it was a community-based big. We asked his mom, we said, he's old enough now to maybe be out in the community and be with another big. And she said, yeah, we'll do that. She was very skeptical. It was really hard for her to make that decision. Well, they've been meeting now for almost a year. They're coming up on their anniversary. And when he started meeting with his big Corey, we said, well, does he talk about his dad? Because we let him know, he might want to talk about his dad. And he said, no, he doesn't talk about his dad, but he talks about Jonah all the time. So it's amazing what one high school student can do once a week for a half hour. It was incredible. I met them at school one day last year, and Jonah was getting out of his car, and he had a box underneath his arm, and I said, what do you have? And he said, my Batmobile. I know that he'll love it. And so when they ended the relationship, he left the Batmobile for him. It was really impactful, and I don't think Ryan will ever forget that. I have a little guy at Eastern Elementary who's in first grade, and I've had him for 2 years, since he was in kindergarten. And it took 3 meetings with his big was Alex's brother, Kyle. It took 3 meetings to actually get him to sit down to talk. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to do anything. We finally got him to sit down, and he started meeting with Kyle. He still would not talk to me for almost an entire year, but he talked Kyle's ear off. They had a great time. Kyle graduated. He got a new big, and his big is a junior over at Central High School, so he'll be with him this year and next year, and they get along great. And he talks about Kyle all the time, and he finally talks to me. And about a month ago, I was talking to him, and I hurt my leg. I ruptured my Achilles tendon, and I had a boot on. And he said, what is that? Why do you have that? What happened to you? Can I try that on? How can you walk? Show me how you walk. Show me how you walk with a crutch. He was hilarious. And he said, I've been thinking about this. He said, I like Brady. I really liked Kyle. And he said, do you think next year I could have 2 bigs? He said, I'd really like to have a girl, because they're really sweet. And I'd like to have a sweet big sister. And I said, well, you can't have 2. And he said, well, then I got to keep Brady. What am I going to do? So he talks to me now, but sometimes it's only walking by me in the hall when I say, hi, and he says, don't talk to me. Okay. But we're making progress. And what we find from our teachers now is that they'll walk by us in the hallway and say, Brady showed up at the exact right time. Emery showed up at the exact right time. It was enough for me to be able to get them out of the classroom for half an hour, recenter my classroom, be able to get us back on track, have them get back on track, and then have them come back in. So we know we're not the solution, but we want to be part of it, and we can't thank you enough. I hope that we can get up to 200 or 300 school matches in the next few years. I hope I stick around long enough and I don't retire to see that happen. But we're really happy to be in the schools, and we cannot thank you enough. We're now in Elk Rapids. We are in GTEX. We are headed to Kingsley in the fall, Bel Air, Kalkaska, East Jordan, and Mansalona. So thank you for letting us work this out here. It looks like it's a model that's successful, and we're really happy to be taking it on the road as well. But they won't let me do that. They want me to stay here, which makes me really happy, because that means I get to be with you all the time. So thank you for your support of us, and really thank you for allowing us in the schools. It means very, very much. So thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I just want to say, Robin, seeing you in action, whether you're in front of principals or a community meeting of the minds or a Rotary Club meeting, you are just a light and positivity to everyone around.
Oh, thank you, Kristen.
Thank you for bringing
Thank you.
just this awesome program into all of our buildings and for being so easy to work with.
Thank you. Well, ditto. It's been wonderful. This partnership has been amazing for us, so thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Robin, just a quick question. I know you have a big event coming up in April, right,
Oh,
this
yes,
month?
yeah.
What day is that, just as a plug?
It's the last Saturday of the month. I think that might be the 26th. It's our wine event. We are at the Cathedral Barns on Saturday night, and then we have a Bubbles and Brunch on Sunday at Sorlina. So yes, and then we have a golf event, thank you, Tiffany, at the end of August, which is a completely different beast. But yeah, those are our two big fundraisers. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Anybody have any questions? Yep. All right, thanks.
Thank you so much for being here. Really loved the stories and just thank you for sharing. And it just warms my heart. And thanks for all you do. And continue to, continue to keep that communication open. If TCAPS can do anything else, or partner in other ways, it's just it's really great. A lot of the kids you mentioned, I know, and I'm sure it's filling them up too. As much as they're giving back, I think it goes both ways. So I think it's great for all the kids all the way around. So
It really does. And our bigs will tell us, especially our high school bigs will tell us they get as much out of this as the little kids do. They have a great time. It's amazing how quickly you forget what it's like to be 5 or 6 when you're 16 or 17, and then you get to color again and you get to talk about things and you get to, do all that kind of stuff that you did when you were a little kid. And it's a lot of fun. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for all you do. I appreciate it.
thank you, Robin.
Thanks, Robin.
That was good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, we'll move into on to curriculum pilot updates. So Kirsten Jones Morgan and Tiffany Palmaville.
So I wanted to begin to talk about our language arts adoption process at the K-5 level. And this will be really the first of a series of conversations that I think we will ultimately have related to language arts. The teaching of children to become literate is obviously the very foundation of everything that a school does. And so when we're looking at attempting to get a program in place, that process really takes several years. So we have been engaged in this work. We started that work last year, have continued that work this year with the intent, at one point originally, to implement new curriculum in the year 25-26. We have had some pretty wonderful events occur. Yeah,
Wonderful and challenging.
challenging but yet remarkable events occur related to some grants, which has really expedited this process. So what originally was going to be a 3-year process, we're attempting to do now in 2 years, last year and this year. So what I'm attempting to do today is just bring you all up to speed on this work, knowing that originally we thought that this was going to be a conversation that we would engage in really at the end of this year and into next year. So what I would like you to know and to begin with is that we have had a very extensive process to even just begin to review potential programs. So when we're talking about a high-quality language arts program, we recognize that there are lots of different sources that we can use to begin to vet programs. We've talked about ed reports in the past when we're talking about reviewing of curricular options. Ed Reports is a nonprofit that really sets a number of standards and criteria that they basically run different curricula through, and then give you like a ranking. In addition to Ed Reports, we also wanted to look at some other different vetting sources. So we looked at the the Department of Ed through Nevada, and I'm drawing a blank on the other state, Mississippi, and then There was a third product called What Matters, Reading What Matters. The research that Ed Reports and the University of Mississippi and Nevada look at is really based on this body of research called the science of reading, which in essence has been decades of study of how children learn to read. The research is overwhelmingly clear. There is a way in which you can teach reading to ensure that students become literate. And there are different strands that are necessary. Your reading program needs to have two very concrete strands. One strand teaches what you would typically think of as decoding skills. They call that the word recognition strand. So how do kids attack words? Do they recognize distinct sounds, that the symbols that they are seeing represent distinct sounds? They combine those sounds to make words. So that's called the word recognition strand. The second way that kids become fully literate has to do with language comprehension. So can they make meaning from what they're reading? Those two things have to be in conjunction for kids to become fully literate in both reading and writing. There actually has been an overwhelming body of research that shows how you teach those skills has tremendous impact on whether or not kids make that gain, make that leap. We have recognized that our current program, Journeys, has not been aligned with that body of research. That's why we have supplemented with programs that you've perhaps recall, a program called ECRI, which is Enhanced Core Reading Instruction. We've supplemented with a program called SRSD, which is a writing program, because we've recognized that while Journeys does capture some components of the science of reading, it doesn't capture all components that we know are necessary for kids to learn to read. So when we began to look at programs, we wanted to make sure that any program that we even potentially looked at had been vetted against that research. So we had this very extensive screening process that at some point you'll have access to. If you want to go to that next slide. When we used that process, we ended up having 7 different vendors come, and they presented to our selection committee. Our selection committee is a very diverse group of professionals. They include reading specialists, instructional coaches, classroom teachers. We included our Indigenous education coordinator, our English language learner coach. We included building administrators, and we wanted to make sure that we were getting a really good representation of all of the key stakeholders so we know that the 7 vendors we chose all match that criteria that we've established, that we know that they are based on the science of reading. Now we want to get a little more specific to what programs do we think will work for TCAPS. So in December and January, we met with all 7 vendors, and we used an adapted tool from the Reading League. The Reading League is also a nonprofit in the country. They are kind of the premier educators of research and educators on looking at curricula through that lens of the science of reading. So they are kind of considered the national experts in how you ensure that what you're putting in front of teachers is aligned to that work. So we used an adapted tool because we wanted to have something that we could score. And from that tool, we basically have landed on 2 different program options. And I apologize that there isn't a slide for this because I didn't have a chance to do it over this weekend because we couldn't access anything. So I'll just tell you about it. We have 2 different program options that we're considering. Both of those options have addressed both strands of what is necessary for kids to learn to read. So they have components that are attacking word recognition, and they have components that are attacking that language comprehension. One program, one option is what I call a supermarket. It's like the Costco, right? Like it's a program that is intended to be it meets both criteria. And that program is called CKLA through Amplify. CKLA. And that stands for Core Knowledge Language Arts. That actually is a program that we considered 7 years ago. And it was one of our top 2 finalists. I was in a building that used CKLA. We had tremendous success with CKLA. It is a very well-respected program, and when you talk to groups like the Reading League, you will hear, and the Reading League is impartial, like they are simply here to say, these are the programs that you need to be looking at, these are the programs you probably need to be staying away from. CKLA is a very much an approved program. The second option is actually the combination of 2 programs. One is called 95% Group.
95% group?
95% Group is the program that it only attacks the word recognition strand. And it probably does it better than anything we've looked at. And we've been looking at a lot of different programs. It is a very comprehensive approach to teaching foundational reading skills K-5, which is unique. There is not another program out there that goes K-5. Most programs stop at 3rd grade and make the assumption that by 3rd grade kids have cracked the code and are moving beyond that. The Reading League teaches morphology up until 5th grade, which is a really important skill that oftentimes we are kind of trying to piece together. So 95% Group doesn't claim to teach anything related to language comprehension. So you partner 95% Group with another program. The program that we're looking at is called Wit and Wisdom. So Wit and Wisdom would be the program that would be done in conjunction with 95% Group to ensure that we are covering both strands. So CKLA is like a one-stop shop. I call it like the Costco. And then we've got like our Fogarellis and Burrits, right? We've got like some very specialized kinds of programs. Where we're at right now, and the reason why we're bringing this to your attention right now, is that, was it maybe a month ago? Yeah. So less than a month ago, the state basically said there are all of these funds available to support K-5 literacy. And by all of these funds, at the time, we thought close to $1 million. These programs are not inexpensive. When you're talking about language arts at K-5, you're probably talking about one of the singular most expensive programs that that's just the nature of the beast. So thinking about being able to secure a grant that would help cover the overwhelming majority of that curricular expense, highly appealing. The catch, the grant came out on Monday, it was due on a Friday that same week. And then
Thank you, Heidi.
the lovely Heidi Skodak, who does all things grant extraordinaire. We didn't just get up close to $1 million. We actually have been awarded $2.7
$2.7 million.
$2.7 million to put towards K-5 literacy.
Wow.
Here's the catch.
There's always a
Quick
catch.
catch.
Not only did it have to be done in a 5-day period, we really have to land, in order to access that full amount, we have to land on our decision by this fiscal year. So when we thought about pacing this out in this very intentional, I mean, I had a really good plan in place. we are now, really accelerating this process where, actually tomorrow, God help us if we can get everything up and functional, we have our first, group coming in to now work with what we're calling our implementation team. So the implementation team are classroom teachers, and what they are going to do is take, over this month, they are going to do a deep dive into each one of these options. So they are first going to have professional development, and then they are going to have an opportunity to do some lesson design and planning, and really try to immerse themselves in the program. We already know that the programs are good. We already know that both options are going to be really, really good for our kids. What we're really trying to decide right now is what of those two options make the most sense through that lens of that classroom teacher. And so we don't have the opportunity because of the time frame to kind of do that more traditional approach of putting things in front of kids. We also know that the research indicates that the best pilots have the same teachers engaged with both options. So what we did not want to do was have half the district do one thing and half the district do another. We wanted to have a select group of people that were able to engage with both products to compare against each other. So this has been something that we spent a lot of time in the last month really considering how to do. I think this is the best option that we have to ensure that we have the group of people that are closest to the work engaging in both program options. We have them doing as deep of a dive as possible in this relatively short window of time. And then the goal will be to come back to this group with a recommendation really by that end of May meeting in order to get on the June agenda for the full board. So that was a lot. But I
Who's
wanted
doing
to.
the professional development? Do you have people coming in from each program
Yep.
to explain and?
Yep. So starting tomorrow, CKLA will spend 2 days with our staff. And the members of this committee have been working their tails off. I mean, this is a huge lift. They had already been working really hard up until this point, and then everything just sort of was like gasoline, and we just, are rolling with it. The good news is that we are in a really good place, that we have done a lot of work to get to this point, and that I feel very confident in either option. It's really about now, what's the best fit for our district? What makes the most sense? There's also implications about professional learning and how we would roll that out and the impact of that, which we've kind of thought through if we went with option one versus option two. So I'm really excited to know that we are on the cusp of getting a program in front of teachers that I think will be of huge benefit. 95% group's name is based on the research that indicates that if you teach reading in the correct way, you should be able to ensure that 95% of your kids are fully literate. And I think about where we average as a district, and we've been quite stagnant in our language arts scores since COVID in particular. I do think that is to some extent the direct result of a program that has not been as aligned to research as it should be. And I am very excited to see the impact that this will have on our kids.
And we are in actually much better shape than most districts that are trying to take advantage of this grant. We were lucky because we started the research a year prior, knowing that we had an adoption coming technically next year. And so to have it narrowed down to two great choices before this grant actually came into play put us in a much better position than other school districts that are just trying to get through the process to get an adoption in place if they're using it for that. So yes, the last part is going to be a race to the finish line, but the thoughtful process prior to get to those two has made a huge difference, and I feel really good about this. And then the opportunity to then have additional funds to be able to use in other curricular areas, because we can cover this with grant money, is huge for the district.
And you
And
said
for our
2.7 was
2.7 million, yeah,
unheard of. I mean,
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
wow.
State, what were the printing presses?
The,
It's about to come to a stop.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the teachers that are serving on this committee, are they also still teaching, or are they going to take some time off to really dive in over this next? I mean, we're talking about literally a month.
A month. So they are 6 days out of the classroom, in order to.
6 days out of the classroom.
Out of the classroom.
Okay.
And all
okay.
of them, and all of the principals are, because we were also talking about a testing season that we're about to enter. So we've been really careful about trying to,
When are we not?
that's true, but we're about to really get into one.
Really get
NWA, MSTEP, all of that's about to hit. So we've been really thoughtful about who should be on this committee. As you can imagine, trying to create lesson plans when you can't access your computer is challenging. And our first day is tomorrow. So,
Where are these programs in place? I mean, do you have folks where you can actually look longitudinally how well these programs are functioning?
yep. So we actually did a site visit on one of the programs. Actually, even prior to the grant, we have Wit and Wisdom. We went to see at Leland. Now they are in their second year with Wit and Wisdom. Our partnership with the Reading League is very helpful because they've actually connected me with several schools across the state and in the country that are piloting both options. Not piloting, I'm sorry, have implemented both options. So we've been in contact with those buildings as well. And are able to have access to their student achievement.
Have they had it for any length of time?
Yes, yes. Some of them, like CKLA in particular, has been around. I mean, we looked at CKLA 9 years ago. And actually, again, I was in a building where we did CKLA for several years and found great success. Probably our highest student achievement scores came using that program at Blair.
Wow.
The other thing that I think is really, and it's going to be hard to focus on, it's not just your ability to read, that you actually learn to like to read. And it's something that becomes a part of who you are over longevity. And I think up against a soundbite culture right now that we're going with, that the people that read, I think, will actually have a much better understanding of certain issues as they come up, as opposed to these little snippets of information that really don't have much depth.
Yeah.
And if we could get around that, your whole community would benefit.
Yes, I think that we have to understand that reading is a right. Like learning to read is a right, and it is essential. It is, and one of the things that some of the professional development that we've been doing is it's not even that the act of reading is in and of itself so special. It's what happens when you can't read. Like we know the implication when you can't read, and the profound impact that has on a human being's life. So it isn't acceptable to not have kids, not to have 95% of our kids be capable of doing that. And even then, there are ways in which we still try to reach those students that we know are going to struggle even with the best of instruction. So it's definitely, in our mind, not only our kind of moral obligation, but it is the single most important thing that I think we do as a school system is have kids become literate. This decision has been one that we have been taking very seriously, working very hard on, and making sure that we are as aligned to what we know science says works as possible.
Well, and I applaud just, that, like you said, Blair has used the CKLA program and has been able to really go back to the data and look at the improvements compared to, others. And so, that I think that's the importance of piloting these programs when we can. Yeah. And realizing that Journeys is not hitting those marks and having to make a decision and, presenting with these two great options. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the data, moving forward after the decision's made,
Yep.
so, yeah.
Do either, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Do either of these programs offer like, probably safety net is not the right word, but this is a K-5 initiative. So if you've got kids who are in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, who didn't benefit from Journeys,
Yep,
and is there any kind of catch-up or safety net for these students?
like the
to-
Title II supports. So yes, I mean, what's kind of interesting, particularly about 95% group, is, again, the span in which they're teaching foundational reading skills. So CKLA, one of the disadvantages to it is that the foundational reading instruction ends in 3rd grade. 95% group, it's through 5th grade with what we would call our Title II or our remediation, not Title II, I'm sorry, we call our Title I support, yep, through actually 8th grade. So there are, and that's one thing that we can really look into now that we have this funding, is actually aligning some of our Tier 2 supports to our core curriculum, which we don't currently have. So yes, there are options.
Good. All right, thanks.
And of course, in theory, if we actually have this robust program in place, we would see so many fewer kids requiring that kind of
Right.
remedial support. But we know we have kids with gaps, not only because of Journeys, but also because of COVID.
And I also think, seriously, that one of the things I saw with a couple of kids and looking through Journeys myself is it's kind of random all over the place. It's hard to really get excited about reading if you really don't care what you're reading. And that becomes really important, how you engage.
Yeah.
So hopefully the programs address that as well.
Any other questions on English language arts? Okay, so next will be special education, same.
Yeah. So currently, we are doing some pilots in special education. One is in the K-5 realm for math, and we are looking at a pilot of the bridges. We currently have 6 special education teachers who are utilizing this, and we are really excited. I met with the teachers actually the day before break. They gave up that last little bit of time before they walked out the door, and we met. We have started the pilot back in November, and the publisher has given us until June for an extension on the pilot. And basically, what I'm hearing thus far is the majority of the teachers are loving it. It is very hands-on, manipulative-based, which our students are loving. The kids even said this is so much easier for us to comprehend than what they've been using. And our teachers currently are using a kind of a hodgepodge of items for the Tier 3. They are using Delta Math, they are using Number Worlds, and they are also using connecting math concepts at this time. And so we're really looking at how do we systematize and make sure that all of our special education teachers are using the same curriculum for our students, because if a kid moves from central grade out to Blair or vice versa, it's hard for them to then switch gears if they're going into a different classroom with a different special education teacher. So really, we're very excited about that. We are again meeting in a couple weeks with the teachers and going to make some final determinations with our teachers at the elementary level. So that's the first pilot we have going. The second one is we are just at the beginning phases of a K-5 or K-5 and then 6-12 writing program, and that is called Step Up to Writing. We are very excited because it closely aligns to the SRSD that Tier 1 is using, the general education students are using. And we are finding, I met already with the ISD, somebody who had used it extensively in a district before moving to the ISD, and she couldn't say enough good things. And then we have some materials, and we are meeting with special education teachers hopefully tomorrow afternoon. So they are going to be looking through all the curriculum items and are very excited to have something potentially that would come all the way through the K-12 realm and be very explicit. I know Kirsten has done a lot from the explicit instruction realm, and I would say that both of these items are very explicit in the instruction that's provided to our students. So the teachers were very excited by them, both. So we're excited to get those pilots started and continue on.
The other thing I would add is, we've been going down the road of how are we solidifying and making sure we have a great plan for tiered support, tier 1, 2, and 3 in place in the district. And we're almost there. So this is one of the pieces with special ed in that tier 3 component that actually will help us get all those alignments in place and help support that work. So super exciting in both areas.
Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, so we will move on to our next informational item, Board Curriculum Learning Series, Artificial Intelligence, and due to some
as it would be.
unforeseen circumstances, but I'll let Heidi.
Yeah, as it would be, we're going to postpone that learning series until next time, but I did leave you with one slide that is so powerful in the work and the learning that we're doing. A lot of our sessions at the League of Innovative Schools were around AI, and this is just a graphic that shows like the amount of time it took the path to get to 100 million users. Whether it was email, whether it was Spotify, whether it was Pinterest, and then you'll see Instagram at 30 months, TikTok at 9 months, and then you see Chat GPT. To get to 100 million users is 2 months, 8 weeks.
Wow.
And so the idea about how fast technology impacts and changes in our role in education and how we actually step up to look at what's happening and meet the needs and also equip students for what happens after high school, right? So they're going to do a great presentation when they come back next time. Super excited to see the presentation. I don't know, John, if you have anything to add, but in the midst of everything, we are going to postpone that until next time. And get to that AI conversation later.
And I would just say they're not here because they are working tirelessly
Yes.
to try to get us back up online. So
Yes.
Can't say enough good things about that department.
Absolutely. So we absolutely understand, and instead of piecemealing it together, we'll wait, and that's great. So we appreciate that. So, and thank you for all of our staff and team that have been working tirelessly on this network issue. So,
And it's just been amazing. I think the most amazing part to me was the community that came in to help and support. So we had people, IT from Munson, helping support.
Wow.
And the Northwest Ed came in.
wow.
Different
So-
district teams,
NMC.
different departments, our
District
team.
teams
well.
and department, NMC, and so it really signifies the impact every organization knows when something like this can happen, right? So it's just we came together as a community. In the midst of all the chaos, it has been a great success as far as partnerships go and support.
Wow. That's
Excellent.
That's great to
Well,
hear.
they realize their vulnerabilities.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, there's gonna be a time where they'll need help too.
Everybody is gonna be, yeah.
We're all on this
And
together.
personally, each one of us have to consider what the state is with our passwords.
Yep.
And what we do and don't open, I mean.
Yep, absolutely.
Because you'll pay for it for a long time.
Absolutely. Well, we will move on to celebrations and successes then, to round out our meeting here.
We'll start by saying that with the vacancy of one of our team members over to LEAP, we have a new team member starting to fill that role, and I'm going to let Tiffany introduce her.
Yeah, so Bobby Jo Lawrence went on to a different position at the LEAP office, and so I'm pleased to announce that Kyra Brazel is our new administrative assistant in the department, and we're very excited. Kyra is coming from the University of Michigan, and she has has just recently obtained housing in the region, so we're very excited. Yesterday was her first day, so we're still getting her onboarded. No technology at this point in the ball game, no badge, but she has helped and supported as much as she can.
And she said she's experienced this though,
Yes,
so
she
she already
has.
has experienced this from her
Yep,
previous.
when she started at U of M, she said they went through a little bit of a similar situation. So she is ready to help, and we're excited to have her as part of our team.
Great. Welcome. Good to have you.
All right, more celebrations. Obviously, March was Reading Month, so these are just a few of the students and representatives, and I think we're going to scroll through, right? Other folks that were reading to our students. This was Blair Reading Night, so there was a book fair and a book mobile and story time and food and fun, and so this is just some examples of that at Blair. More Reading Month activities, again, different themes, different characters. Lots of fun, as Beth talked about. I mean, really just that engagement part with reading, making it fun. Traverse Heights had a vocabulary parade and principal for a day. So I've done this previously as an elementary principal, having a contest where somebody gets to act as principal for the day. So you can see the student is sitting there at Mr. K's desk. It is the highlight. I found out this student that I had previously, I think they were in second or third grade, they came back at graduation and that was like their favorite thing from elementary school, is being principal for the day. So,
Those walkie-talkies make you
yes,
feel real.
really cool, right?
Did you have the earpiece too?
Yep.
And then this was West Middle School. We had author Doug Stanton visit and talk about his career in writing. And so this was really kind of an exciting day for our middle school students. And then Michigan History Day. So West Middle School advanced along with TCAPS Montessori to the state level with middle school students who, and those names are listed there, who participated in a Michigan History Day essay competition, I believe. And this is a Central High School government student example. This was a mock, they participated in a mock Congress. And so there's an example of them there. Lots of, right. You said that, Beth, not me, but okay, yes, right. And we just want to thank Moms on a Mission Group and Friends in Recovery, who are committed to helping TCAP students understand the dangers of opioids and substance abuse. These are photos from the March presentation at Traverse City East Middle School. And celebrations to our robotics teams for the state finals. Here we come. Both the Titans and Raptors were victorious at the district competition, which was held at West Senior High. I don't know if you wanted to talk about more.
Yeah, they were on the same alliance, so that rarely ever happens. So they were victorious together. And I mean, our goal is always to build strength in teams on both sides of town, and we are certainly doing that in the area of robotics. Also, a big shout out to our sponsor for the event, Cone Drive. They spoke at the event. They supported with the dollars that it takes to run the event, and they have just been a great sponsor for the last 2 years. And we had over 142 volunteers it takes to run that event. So if you've been, and Beth was there, and Josie was there, so they were able to experience that, and maybe others were, but those are the two that I saw when I was there, and all these different supporters and volunteers to actually make that event run each year. So it was a great event. And they are off to states, and it looks like if they do well there, both teams will be headed to world competition this year.
And I would just say, Heidi, too, as I watched online, to see the student body cheering both sides of town on was pretty spectacular. It's great to see.
Very fun.
I have just a couple of questions because I can't write as fast. So the Central High School participated in mock Congress. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay.
Or
And,
their AP, or AP Gov.
okay. AP Gov. And then the moms. There was a.
Yes.
What was that one again? Can you?
The presentation at East Middle School,
Okay.
and it was really just to share the dangers of opioids and substance abuse. I
Got it.
believe
Yes,
both groups are moms that have lost
kids.
students to
Their
both of
children.
those, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yes.
they are. And I believe they go, I know they go to both sides.
Mhm.
They, and it is one of the most impacting, I think, I heard from both principals that it's just, It's just an incredibly powerful story of their children and their experience with death by substance abuse.
There is going to be, it came on one of the Big Brothers Big Sisters notifications online that Thursday at Central Methodist Church, I believe, is it 6?
I'm looking at it right now, it's Families Against Narcotics.
Yes.
It is Thursday, April 4th, from 6 to 7 at Cincinnati Methodist Church. And it's family, and some of those gals are also with Families Against Narcotics, I know Ms. Gonzalez, so. Yep. It's substance use disorder affects families too, is what it's called.
Been there and met with them.
Well, thank you for all the celebrations and some great things happening in the district. So thank you for sharing all those great things. Any other questions anyone has? No? Well, thank you again, Kelly, for putting together sort of our paper versions instead of and Heidi, and I mean.
Team effort.
Teamwork. Team effort, so thank you so much, keeping the curriculum committee moving on, and we appreciate it. So, and with that, our next committee meeting will be Tuesday, April 30th, 8:30. And we will still be here in the Boardman building because we will not be moving until May.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay. So with that, I adjourn the meeting. So thank you, everybody.
Are all the other committee meetings on a
Still
schedule?
on. Yep.
Gotcha.